have a second? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call the special council meeting on Tuesday, January 16th, 2018, 7:30 p.m. in the Twinsburg Government Center Council Chamber. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mrs. Stauffer?
Here.
Mr. Steele?
Here.
Ms. McFerrin? Here. Mr. Barr?
Here.
Mr. Scafidi?
Here.
Mr. Bellin?
Here.
Mr. Fury?
Here.
Okay, well, could we please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance led by Mr. Bellin?
Father, you guide and govern everything with order and love. Look upon the assembly of our city leaders and fill them with the spirit of your wisdom. May they always act in accordance with your will and their decisions be for the peace and well-being of all. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to enter into an executive session to discuss matters pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22 G1 personnel.
I'll second.
Okay, I made the motion. It was seconded by Mr. Fury. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Stauffer?
Here.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin? Yes. Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Okay, after the executive session, we will reconvene and report on the executive session. And we will reconvene to report on executive session. We had discussed personnel and finance position. Audience participation.
There is none.
There is none, okay. Legislation, ordinance 07-2018.
An ordinance confirming the mayor's appointment of Megan Griffith as finance director for the city of Twinsburg pursuant to city charter and declaring an emergency.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to place ordinance 07-2000. Suspend the rules on ordinance 07-2018.
We've done it.
And put it on its third and final reading. I'm sorry.
And
And
declare
declare
an
an
emergency.
emergency. I'm sorry. I apologize. Okay. Okay. I made the motion, if you can call it that, and Mr. Scafidi seconded. Any discussion?
The reason for the emergency is we want to make this hire as soon as possible.
Shannon, please call the roll.
Mrs. Stauffer?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Now I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 07-2018 as an emergency. Is there a second?
Second.
I made the motion, Mr. Bellin seconded. Any other discussion?
No, I just want to say that, we went through, well, it's apparent now that Ms. House is unfortunately leaving us, and we went through advertising and a collection of resumes and interviewing process with a number of candidates, and Megan Griffith is one that I'd asked council to approve. We'd like to appoint her. I think she brings all the both educational experience, background, and the qualities we're looking for in a finance director. So.
Any other discussion?
Per a charter amendment about 6 years ago, council has the opportunity, or has the responsibility to approve both the law director and the finance director. And in the discussion that we had or the question and answer period we just had in the executive session, I was extremely impressed with Mary Yates as a candidate.
Any other discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Mrs. Stauffer?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes. Welcome to the city. Welcome.
Ordinance
Congratulations.
07-2018 passes by a 7-0 vote. Welcome. Next, we have ordinance 08, 2018.
An ordinance establishing salaries, wages, and employment descriptions for certain employees of the city and updating classifications of employees to be known as the salary ordinance and declaring an emergency.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and place ordinance 08, 2018 on its third and final reading. Is there a second? Second. As an emergency? I said it at the beginning. There's a second? Was that Mr.? Oh, okay. I made the motion. Mr. Barr seconded. Any discussion?
The reason for the emergency is to add the position of assistant finance manager, clarify the mayor's salary, and do some maintenance on the council salaries and presidential salaries.
Yeah, and if I could, Mrs. Stoffer, I mean, I know that originally this was brought, as Mr. Fury said, regarding the assistant finance director to put that line item back in, but when we did that, Mr. Fury pointed out a couple of really housekeeping measures, the main one, or one of them being the mayor's salary that had been quoted in the salary ordinance was the mayor's salary from 2015. So it didn't really make sense to keep putting that number out there because it wasn't the actual number. The number that is in the amended ordinance that all of you should have and that's been uploaded to Box is the mayor's 2015 salary, which was frozen in 2016, and then a 2% in 17, and then this reflects the January 1, 2018 with this 2%. So that's what this number is. It's not an increase over and above that, but it's the actual number. The other issue that we were looking at, which is on page 4 of the salary ordinance, is we had council salary in there for council terms commencing 2013, which obviously don't exist anymore, so we removed that. And we also had different salaries for the president of council for those that were term commencing in 2013, 15, and 17, which also didn't make sense. Council president, my understanding, gets a rate higher than the council person. It shouldn't matter what term you were ultimately elected at. So that's what is reflected in front of you. I've added the council term that will commence in 12/1/2019. And that's at the same rate as the current 2017 salary. There was no increase in that. So 19 is taken care of. If you guys want to address it in the next 2 years, I think we've talked about this before. It'd have to be done at least 120 days prior to any election, and it can't be an interim raise. It would have to be a raise for future council seats. So that's why you're in the right spot to do this if you want to go ahead and make that 19 add-on now. But I'm sure we'll be addressing the salary ordinance again in the next 2 years at some point. So those were the only additional changes other than the assistant finance director.
Okay. Do we want to wait and take care of this last one?
It's, all you have to do is, it's already been amended into the current form that's in front of you, the mayor's salary and the council housekeeping. If you pass it as is tonight, the changes that the law director just explained to you go into effect.
Right, yeah.
And if you want to address it further in the future, that's fine, but then we're good for the rest of the year.
Okay, yeah, I'm
Right.
aware of that. Okay. Any other discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Next, I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 08, 2018 as an emergency. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. I made the motion. It was seconded by Mr. Fury. Discussion? Tonight. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Ordinance 08, 2018 passes by 7-0 vote. That's the end of our legislation. We have no absent members, so at this time, I'd like to adjourn the meeting. Adjourn.
Congratulations.